Well, listen, if you don't have anything to say, you blab. You just go on and 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 on.
Voters do not agree with these despicable women on The View. They are wildly out of touch with the vast majority of Americans, and frankly, they should seek immediate help.
Oh, you're not ready for this one. Karoline Leavitt just handed Whoopi Goldberg the most brutal reality check of her life. Live, unfiltered, and absolutely ruthless.
I'd like to talk about Joe Biden and Donald Trump, who you work for.
I am stating facts that your colleagues have stated in the past.
Okay,
now, as
I'm
for
sorry,
this
guys.
debate,
We're going to come back out to the panel. Karoline, thank you very much for your time.
This wasn't some polite disagreement or civil exchange. It was a direct hit. Leavitt didn't hold back for a second. And the best part? Whoopi never saw it coming. You could literally see the panic behind her eyes like, why did I even open my mouth? She looked stunned, scrambling for words that never came. This was Karoline in her prime. Fearless, fierce, and unapologetically dropping truth like grenades. And what came after? A meltdown so spectacular it deserves to be studied in media schools. Buckle up, because this was a showdown like no other.
She's probably been put in there because, according to Donald Trump, she's a 10. You know that's what it is.
I want to be clear, though. It's not her first job. It was her first press briefing. She worked in the previous Trump administration.
This is the first time that she's been she may be. But my point is that job would not maybe have been open to her.
No, I understand. I just wanted to clarify.
It all exploded during a discussion about Joe Biden and Donald Trump. Leavitt, calm and composed, tried to state her facts, but almost immediately, Whoopi swooped in, cutting her off, flexing her usual dominance like she owned the studio. Except this time, the script flipped, and Whoopi wasn't ready for what hit her. Now let's set the stage. Whoopi runs The View like she's royalty. Untouchable, unchallengeable, always controlling the narrative. She and her co-host, Sunny Hostin and Joy Behar, love to tear into their guests, especially if they even breathe a hint of conservative opinion. And when it's about Trump, forget it. They're locked and loaded.
She's probably been put in there because, according to Donald Trump, she's a 10.
But Karoline Leavitt is no ordinary guest. She's a nightmare for them. Sharp, composed, and with a message that slices through spin like a hot knife. This isn't just pushback. This is full-on obliteration. And how it all started? Absolute gold. Joy Behar, the show's permanent echo chamber, tried to open the scene with her usual sarcastic sneer. She made a nasty jab, suggesting Leavitt's rise was due to her looks. Yes, seriously. She's probably only there because, according to Trump, she's a 10, Joy said, like that was some brilliant take. As if Karoline's career could be boiled down to her appearance.
She's probably been put in there because, according to Donald Trump, she's a 10.
Classic move. When a young conservative woman climbs the ranks, critics never ask about her skills, her resume, or her intelligence. No, they jump right to how she looks. And just when you thought the cringe couldn't get any worse, Whoopi joined in. She didn't just echo Joy's ridiculous take. She escalated it. Whoopi smugly claimed Karoline wouldn't be where she is without voices like ours guiding her path.
This is the first time that she's been she may be. But my point is that job would not maybe have been open to her.
No, I understand. I just wanted to clarify.
Yes, Whoopi actually believes Karoline Leavitt owes her success to The View. You can't make this up. Delusion doesn't even begin to cover it. But here's where it all turns into a masterclass. Karoline didn't back down. She didn't even blink. She stepped right up and torched the entire panel without raising her voice. Watching that moment felt electric. I couldn't help but laugh at the irony, she said, cutting through the nonsense with surgical precision. Whoopi Goldberg, Joy Behar, and the rest of the ladies on The View love calling Republicans conspiracy theorists. But they've been wrong about absolutely everything these past few years. And she was just getting started.
And watching this clip, I couldn't help but think how ironic that Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar and the rest of the ladies on The View spend their time calling Republicans the conspiracy theorists. But they have been wrong about everything they have said over the last couple of years. They likened President Trump to Hitler. They have mocked him. They have shamed him. They have lied about him consistently on their show. And it was a joy to watch them on November the 6th when they realized that tens of millions of Americans do not listen to the lies that they have spewed. These women are completely out of touch with reality.
Karoline listed lie after lie the panel had repeated. They compared Trump to dictators, ridiculed his every policy, and tried to shame anyone who supported him. But, come election time, tens of millions of Americans ignored their drama and voted anyway. It wasn't just a political victory. It was a reality check. The View crew had no idea how far removed they were from everyday Americans. Whoopi has made a career out of mocking others, especially conservative women. And yet, here she was, clinging to this outdated narrative that a woman's success must be rooted in her appearance. It's beyond insulting. It's pathetic. We left that kind of thinking back in the Stone Age. But Whoopi, she's still dragging it around like it's some kind of insight. The truth is, Karoline Leavitt isn't a problem for them because of how she looks. She's a problem because she's articulate, confident, and completely immune to their bullying. And when Whoopi said, with a straight face, that The View played a role in Karoline's success, that's when the whole studio audience started to feel the shift. Because arrogance that big? It doesn't land, it implodes. And Whoopi wasn't done yet. Instead of actually responding to Karoline's arguments, she threw the pettiest jab imaginable, mocking the way Karoline speaks.
You know, listen, if you don't have anything to say, you blab. You just go on and 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 on.
That's right. No counterpoints, no logic, no facts. Just a lazy insult. She actually sneered and waved her hand like Karoline's delivery made her argument invalid. That's what you do when you have nothing left to say. But Karoline didn't take the bait. She fired back with clarity and calm, exposing just how insecure and rattled the panel really was.
Voters do not agree with these despicable women on The View. They are wildly out of touch with the vast majority of Americans, and frankly, they should seek immediate help.
She told it straight. Millions of Americans don't agree with the toxic, out-of-touch commentary pushed by The View. And for once, Whoopi had no comeback. Just stunned silence. It was brutal, and it was necessary. Because how long have people called out The View for being completely disconnected from reality? The show doesn't thrive on truth. It feeds on forced outrage, hollow applause, and groupthink. Every time Whoopi or Joy drops a tired talking point, the audience claps on cue like they're in a sitcom taping from the 90s. And yet Karoline stood there, firm and focused, dismantling everything they thought made them untouchable. And just when you thought she'd said enough, Whoopi snapped, going off on a bizarre rant about wokeness. That word clearly triggered her, and she launched into this passionate monologue about how, without wokeness, women like Karoline wouldn't even have a seat at the table. Really? Whoopi actually tried to argue that Karoline owed her job to the exact ideology she was criticizing.
I would like this young lady this is her first job, I would like her to do a little homework. Because she said something yesterday that really pissed me off. And that was, she said, there will be no wokeness here.
Oh, yeah.
Let me explain something to you. Because without that wokeness, you might not have that job.
Yeah.
Because women were not invited to that table. Women were not invited to many tables in this nation. The reason we fought and busted our behinds to make sure that you didn't have to worry about this. And now to hear you talk about it and to hear anybody talk about the wokeness was put in place for a reason.
That's not just irony, that's mental gymnastics at an Olympic level. Whoopi completely missed the point. Karoline wasn't saying women don't deserve opportunities. She was saying those opportunities should be earned based on merit, not performative politics or Twitter trends. But Whoopi didn't stop there. She acted like Karoline had just committed some unspeakable offense by rejecting woke culture. Suddenly, Whoopi was clutching her pearls, framing it like a personal betrayal of every woman who ever fought for rights. It was ridiculous. She wasn't making a point. She was spiraling. And the best part? Karoline didn't even raise her voice. She didn't yell. She didn't insult. She simply made her argument calm, clear, and devastatingly effective. That's what shook Whoopi the most. Karoline had truth on her side. And truth, when spoken fearlessly, cuts through every smear. But the panel wasn't ready to give up just yet. After realizing they were losing control, they tried to twist the narrative by dragging Trump into the conversation.
I'm going to stop this interview if you continue to attack my colleagues. I would like to talk about Joe Biden and Donald Trump, who you work for.
I am stating facts that your colleagues have stated in the past.
Okay,
now,
I'm sorry, guys. We're going to come back out to the panel. Karoline, thank you very much for your time.
That was so good.
Classic move. If they can't beat the guest, they go after her boss. Because in their eyes, everyone associated with Trump must be guilty by association. And then Whoopi pulled the ultimate desperation move, claiming Karoline's thoughts weren't even her own. She just repeats whatever Trump says, she implied, with that smug look on her face. No proof, no logic, just character assassination.
Statement afterwards, this young lady claimed her, quote, on-air snub proves that you-know-who will not be treated fairly in the upcoming debate. Now, do you think this is going to make people doubt whether CNN can stay objective, or is this more the same of, everybody's against me, it's all rigged, I tell you. Is everything rigged?
No, it's their MO. That's what they do. Rachel Maddow said last week, she's like, if the election is lost, it was rigged. If there's a debate, then the moderators are probably biased and they're prejudiced against me.
But Karoline wasn't fazed. She smiled. And that smile? It said everything. She knew she had the facts, the receipts, and the resolve to finish what she started. Karoline didn't need to raise her voice to land a knockout. The facts were doing all the damage for her. She turned to the studio, gave a slow, deliberate look, and calmly tore apart the entire argument the panel had been clinging to like a life raft.
Divisive and disgusting speech that any president, certainly in my lifetime, has ever given. He essentially waged war on half of the country by saying that we are all a threat to democracy because we believe in putting America first. It's not radical to want to put your country and your own people first. It's not radical to want to have a strong border, a strong military, and to unleash the might of your own economy, not economies around the world.
Her voice never cracked. Her expression never wavered. This wasn't arrogance. It was certainty. She wasn't flailing or bluffing like Whoopi. She was delivering truth, unapologetic, unbothered. And then came the next moment, one that left the audience holding their breath. In a clip that quickly made the rounds online, Karoline tried to speak on CNN, only to be interrupted by a journalist who shut her down mid-sentence. The anchor snapped, "Ma'am, I'm going to stop this interview if you continue to attack my colleagues." Karoline tried to respond, calmly stating she was only repeating facts those very colleagues had previously admitted. But nope. The segment was cut short. Back to the panel. Whoopi and her audience laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was their only defense left. Nervous, awkward chuckles filled the room, paper-thin cover for the fact that they were cornered. When Whoopi picked the mic back up, she didn't come with a rebuttal. She came with mockery, delivered in that now familiar condescending tone.
I'd like to talk about Joe Biden and Donald Trump, who you work for.
I am stating facts that your colleagues have stated in the past.
Okay,
now,
I'm sorry, guys. We're going to come back out to the panel. Karoline, thank you very much for your time.
Poor Whoopi. After decades on the air, making movies, doing interviews, lecturing guests like a professor at her own university of opinion, you'd think she would have evolved her playbook, but no. Same tired talking points, same dramatic pauses, same exaggerated eye rolls, like she's the only one who sees the truth. But her next move? Beyond delusional. She actually suggested that Karoline's rejection of wokeness was somehow dangerous, especially for young women, because, apparently, thinking independently and refusing to play by ideological scripts is now considered a threat. Let that sink in. Whoopi, who spent years preaching empowerment, now wants women to be grateful to a concept that treats them as political props. And once again, Karoline clapped back. No theatrics, no shouting, just a firm surgical response. She pointed out exactly how wokeness has become a tool, not for progress, but for control, not for equality, but for guilt-tripping.
We have seen cultural Marxism trickling its way through every institution in this country. The public school system, the higher education university system, Hollywood, big tech, the corrupt mainstream media that I fought against in President Trump's White House are indoctrinating my generation of Americans into hating our country, hating one another based on race and gender and all of this other BS, quite frankly.
And under her watch, the days of press briefings full of buzzwords and emotional pandering over. Common sense was back on the menu, and it was being served cold. Joy Behar didn't like it.
But he just yelled out, Trump, to me, like, you know, like some kind of weird, what do you call it, like a blurt.
Outburst?
Just like a blurt to me, like I'm supposed to understand what that means, which I do.
Whoopi didn't like that. She shifted gears. Her face tightened. Her tone sharpened. She launched into a rant about how Leavitt wouldn't have her job if it weren't for those progressive policies she was now speaking against. The irony burned like fire. Whoopi was crediting an ideology with creating a woman it couldn't even tolerate. She didn't realize what she was saying. Or maybe she did. Maybe the panic was finally setting in. Then came the clip that truly flipped the room. A CNN anchor had rudely cut Leavitt off during an interview. And back in the View studio, the panel erupted in applause. Not because Leavitt was wrong, but because she had been silenced. That moment right there, it showed their hand. They weren't celebrating ideas. They were celebrating censorship. Then Whoopi really lost the thread. She started talking about Karoline's stance, proving the media would never treat Trump fairly in debates. She tossed out phrases like, "It's all rigged," with that trademark smirk, pretending Karoline's concern was just a paranoid rant. But it wasn't. It was a warning, a legitimate one. And the audience knew it. The air in the room changed. The clapping slowed. The laughter felt hollow, because deep down they knew what they were seeing. Whoopi was losing control. And Karoline? She didn't flinch. She smiled, again, and then dropped another truth bomb. She called out the government's reckless spending. Millions for gender studies abroad, foreign propaganda shows, and pet projects wrapped in inclusive language guides.
The President and this administration are committed to ensuring that these individuals get the funding that they need. And I would just say a strong message to Democrats who are out there pretending to be outraged about the long list of crap that this administration is cutting, federal waste and funding, like $2 million for sex changes in Guatemala, $6 million to fund tourism in Egypt, $20 million on a new Sesame Street show in Iraq, $4.5 million to combat disinformation in Kazakhstan. I could go on, and I'm happy to provide this list to every single one of you.
Her message was sharp. Taxpayer money shouldn't fund ideological playgrounds. Even Whoopi couldn't interrupt that one. She sat, blinking, searching for a new angle, but there wasn't one. Karoline was untouchable, unbothered, unbeatable. Then things got even more serious. Karoline reminded them of the moment President Biden delivered a speech so divisive, so hostile, that it alienated half the country. She called it what it was, a declaration of war against everyday Americans who simply wanted secure borders, strong jobs, and their country put first. That wasn't radical, that was common sense. But on The View, common sense is seen as extremism. Instead of admitting they might be out of touch, the panel chose to mock her youth, her looks, and her confidence. They couldn't counter her facts, so they tried to reduce her to a stereotype. But it didn't work. Karoline kept climbing. While they circled the same tired narratives, she moved forward, outclassing them at every turn. That's why they kept attacking. Not because she was wrong, but because she was right, and unshaken by their sneers. Then came the last round. A reporter asked her why Trump's administration was cutting certain funding, hinting that he was indifferent to suffering in places like wildfire-hit California. It was clearly a trap, but Karoline didn't hesitate. She said it plain. It's about priorities. America is in debt, deep debt, and someone has to take responsibility. That means cutting nonsense spending, even if it sounds nice in headlines. Gender programs in Guatemala, tourism cash in Egypt, Sesame Street spin-offs in Iraq. That's not government spending. That's waste. And Karoline had the receipts.
Advise the president on the legality of telling government agencies that they don't have to spend money that was already appropriated by Congress.
Well, as the OMB memo states, this is certainly within the confines of the law. So White House counsel's office believes that this is within the president's power to do it, and therefore he's doing it.
Okay, so they disagree with lawmakers who say that they don't have the power to freeze this funding.
Again, I would point you to the language in the memo that clearly states this is within the law.
And all that happened on Friday night. The administration fired several inspectors general without giving Congress the 30-day legally required notification that they were being fired. I think only 2 were left at DHS and the DOJ. And then yesterday we saw several prosecutors, I believe 12, fired from the Justice Department who worked on the investigations into the president. As you know, they are career prosecutors, therefore they are afforded civil service protections. How is the administration deciding which laws to follow and which ones to ignore?
So it is the belief of this White House and the White House counsel's office that the president was within his executive authority to do that. He is the executive of the executive branch, and therefore he has the power to fire anyone within the executive branch.
Once again, silence. The studio knew she was right. Even Whoopi couldn't form a real rebuttal. Instead, she shifted back to questions about whether the president had the legal right to halt spending. Karoline handled it like a pro, citing the law, the memos, and reminding everyone that the president, as head of the executive branch, had full authority to act. Simple, legal, undeniable. When asked why certain inspectors general were fired, Karoline didn't flinch. Her answer was sharp. It's about results. Do the job well, or you're out.
ICE has made so far since President Trump came back into office. Can you just tell us the numbers? How many have a criminal record versus those who are just in the country illegally?
All of them, because they illegally broke our nation's laws and therefore they are criminals as far as this administration goes. I know the last administration didn't see it that way, so it's a big culture shift in our nation to view someone who breaks our immigration laws as a criminal, but that's exactly what they are.
That's not harsh. That's how real leadership works. Whoopi, desperate and out of options, tried to question Karoline's credibility. But Karoline didn't even blink. She hit back with a clear line. Everyone who enters this country illegally is a criminal, because they broke our laws.
And I would just say a strong message to Democrats who are out there pretending to be outraged about the long list of crap that this administration is cutting, federal waste and funding.
The studio went dead silent. For once, Whoopi, the queen of cutting off guests, had nothing. Her smirk faded. Her confidence cracked. She wasn't leading the conversation anymore. She was losing it. Karoline didn't just win. She exposed the tired script they've been pushing for years. No shouting, no cheap shots, just calm, cutting truth. And as the cameras faded, Whoopi's look said it all. It wasn't just embarrassment. It was fear. Because now, the illusion is crumbling. And the truth has a name. Karoline Leavitt. And she's only getting started. Thanks for watching. If you want to see more content like this, so hit that like button and don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and please make sure to check out these other videos you might like. See you guys in the next video. Till then, take care and goodbye.